Laissez le bon temps rouler. A saying embraced in New Orleans. It means let the good times roll. Something fans and players and coaches alike, all clad in green and gold as we ring in the new year, are embracing. They've been here before, so has their leader. In just his second season, crowned a Big 12 champion, but this time out, it's different. It's New Year's Eve, and goal number one for the Bears is a win over Ole Miss. Big 12 champions for the first time since 2014. These Bears are on the prowl, looking to pounce on any rebels that come near, because this trip to the Big Easy was anything but. Countdown to kickoff. Bears in New Orleans starts right now. For the second time in 3 years, the Baylor Bears are playing in the Allstate Sugar Bowl. Welcome in to Countdown to Kickoff. Bears in New Orleans, live from the French Quarter. I'm Curtis Quillen.
And I'm Nikki Lattarulo. Tomorrow at this time, the Bears will be inside the Superdome prepping for their game against Ole Miss, the Allstate Sugar Bowl.
Yep, and as there are through any season, Nikki, there were plenty of ups and downs as we got through 2021.
There was, and that's how we're going to start our countdown to kickoff. How did the Bears get to the Sugar Bowl?
It all started in San Marcos as the Bears beat Texas State to open the season 29-20 in Gary Bohannon's first start at quarterback. The Bobcats cut it to 27-20 late as the Bears scored on defense with a J.T. Woods pick six and two Abram Smith TDs in his first game back at running back after moving from linebacker.
After two more wins, number 14 Iowa State rolled into McLean Stadium, and Baylor won it 31-29. For the first time in 2021, Baylor went a half without scoring a touchdown on offense, with the only second half TD coming on a Treston Ebner kickoff return.
A week later, 4-0 would become 4-1. Newly ranked Baylor fell at number 19 Oklahoma State 24-14 after failing to score at all in the first half. The Bears cut the OSU lead to 3 in the fourth quarter, but Jalen Warren hammered the nail into Baylor's coffin in this one.
How would the Bears respond to that loss? Well, apparently pretty well, as they handled West Virginia 45-20. It started quickly, a 75-yard touchdown pass on the second play of the game to Tyquan Thornton as the Bears jumped out to a 28-7 lead, and they rolled from there.
Then future Big 12 member BYU came to town, ranked 19th in the country, but Dave Aranda's Bears got the 38-24 win. The Bears staved off big plays from Puka Nacua and Tyler Algier to seal the win. It sent Baylor into its bye week with a 6-1 record and 2 wins over teams ranked at the time that they played.
And coming out of the bye week, the Bears hosted Texas and dynamic running back Bijan Robinson. The Bear defense bottled him to the tune of just 43 yards in a 31-24 win, where Baylor came back from down 21-10 halfway through the third to get the win. That helped Baylor to a number 12 ranking in the season's first college football playoff rankings.
Then Baylor would hit the road for the first time in 5 weeks, facing a TCU squad, which started Chandler Morris in place of the injured Max Duggan at quarterback. He threw the ball for 461 yards in the Horned Frogs' first game without Gary Patterson as head coach since the year 2000, as the Frogs stunned the Bears 30-28, handing Baylor its second loss.
After that, Oklahoma rolled into Waco in Fox's big noon kickoff. Baylor led 24-7 with 4 minutes to play, and chaos set in because of a potential Big 12 tiebreaker. After Oklahoma cut its lead to 24-14, the Bears needed to score to give themselves a positive point differential with the two Oklahoma schools. So the fans, they rushed the field early, but Isaiah Hankins eventually hit the field goal to lock in a 27-14 win.
The next week, the main story in Baylor's 20-10 win at Kansas State was Gary Bohannon leaving the game with a leg injury just before halftime. Blake Shapen came in, threw for 137 yards on the way to the win.
Going into rivalry Saturday, Baylor needed a win to stay alive in the hunt for a Big 12 title game spot. Blake Shapen made his first career start for the injured Bohannon, as the Bears were never really able to pull away from Texas Tech. Jonathan Garibay missed a field goal to tie it on the final play of the game, and the Bears held on to win it 27-24. And they did get some help, and they ended up making it to the Big 12 title game for the second time in 3 years.
With Oklahoma State shockingly winning Bedlam for the first time since since 2014, Baylor snuck its way in to the Big 12 championship game for the second time in 3 seasons. Injuries dominated the matchup, though, once again against Oklahoma State. Terrell Bernard was back for the Bears, but Shapen started in Bohannon's place once again, and Jalen Warren was out for the Pokes. Shapen set an AT&T Stadium and Big 12 title game record, completing his first 17 pass attempts. Jaron McVay made the game-sealing tackle on 4th and goal as the Bears won their first conference championship in 7 seasons. And no surprise here, Blake Shapen was named MVP of the game. That has brought us here to the Big Easy in New Orleans for the Allstate Sugar Bowl.
And of course, there was rumors that a head coach can leave, but it looks like this time their head coach will stay in Waco.
At least for now, because we know what happened 2 years ago. So much more coming up on Countdown to Kickoff. Bears in New Orleans up next. Matt Lively goes inside the quarterback that got the Bears here.
Gary Bohannon may be starting in the Sugar Bowl, but it was their backup, Blake Shapen, who got them here. We go inside his pass next on 6 Sports. Welcome back. Countdown to Kickoff. Bears in New Orleans. We are live here in Jackson Square and from the beautiful Mississippi River. So just how did Baylor get to the Sugar Bowl? In the biggest game of the season, they had to call upon their inexperienced backup, a QB who started the year number 3 on the depth chart. It was Blake Shapen's Big 12 performance that led them to New Orleans, and his Big 12 past is a big reason for it.
It was great. Like I said, something you dream about when you're a kid growing up.
Blake Shapen did his growing up just 6 hours from New Orleans, the site for the 88th Allstate Sugar Bowl. The Shreveport, Louisiana native was a star athlete in high school, excelling in football, but also ranked as the #1 shortstop in the state.
His skill set in baseball, we used to say he was a grown man playing among boys.
Joe Hewlett was Shapen's assistant baseball coach at Evangel Christian Academy, where he attended high school. It's where the Baylor hero built his legacy.
He actually broke his wrist in football his senior year. He got his doctor to clear him to hit fungos to infielders left-handed. My older brother, who's our hitting coach, came running over and asked Blake, like, have you done that in a game before? And he's like, no, not really. And they grabbed him and took him down to the cage. And 2 nights later, he hit third for us and actually was one of the top hitters in the state left-handed, even though he'd never done it.
With that kind of athleticism, Shapen had a fair share of offers. From Arizona State, USC, UCLA, and Baylor, he chose the Bears. Intending on playing 2 sports, he was listed on last year's Baylor baseball spring roster, but his focus has shifted.
Right now it's football, so I'm not really worried about baseball. We still got a bowl game to get finished.
The full switch to the pigskin is wise, coming from a high school that has produced the most NFL players from the state of Louisiana, according to Hewlett. Despite the change, he still has a baseball family rooting on the Bears from more than 300 miles away.
For him to have the level of success he's had already, it just, the sky's the limit, and we couldn't be more proud and more happy for him.
Proud they are. In that game, it's going to be Gary Bohannon, who is starting. Shapen unavailable even as a backup because of an injury. But Joe Hewlett says he was watching regular season games just to see if he could have a glimpse of Shapen. So you know they will be watching the Sugar Bowl. But coming up, Nikki, what do we have?
Well, you saw a little bit of my conversation with Linda Livingstone, but the full conversation about what being in the Sugar Bowl means to the university is coming up after this. You're watching Countdown to Kickoff, the Bears in New Orleans. Stick with us. It's been quite the year for Baylor athletics. They became the first Big 12 school to win championships in men's and women's basketball and football, all within the same calendar year. And now Baylor football is back in the Sugar Bowl for the second time in 3 years. I sat down with Baylor President Linda Livingstone to talk about what being in a New Year's Six Bowl means to the university.
It's really exciting for us to be at the Sugar Bowl again and to be in a New Year's Six Bowl. Those are exciting bowls. They mean a lot. They are recognition for what a great season you've had. And I think for our players who have worked so hard and frankly had a tough season last year, it's wonderful to be back here. We're thrilled.
And last season, like you said, they went 2-7, Aranda's first season. What have you seen from him and just how he turned this program around?
Well, we're so proud of Coach Aranda and the work he did. He came at such a difficult time. I think shows the way he's grown as a coach, the leadership he's he's provided, the way they have brought the team together in terms of kind of unifying them.
Last time you guys were at the Sugar Bowl, it was obviously a historic season for the team, and then you guys lost your coach after that.
Right.
With all the talk about Coach Aranda potentially leaving, what does it say about him and how much he wants to be here, that he's here and he's here to stay?
We were not surprised that there was a lot of interest in him. He's an outstanding young coach, had such a great season, and so I think it just shows that others also recognize what we saw in him. But we also know he's deeply committed to Baylor, to our players, and so we were really confident that he was committed to being here, and certainly he made that clear to everyone. So we're excited and want him to be our coach for many years to come.
Just a few months ago, you were in a Senate meeting about the status of the Big 12 and its future. How do you feel about it now and what Baylor has done to really bring this conference to the next level?
It's going to be a really strong football conference going forward. And then if you look at basketball, honestly, the best basketball conference in the country. So I've got great optimism and enthusiasm for the Big 12 going forward.
Prediction for Saturday's game, Ole Miss versus Baylor, Sugar Bowl.
I'm going to predict a Baylor Bear victory, but I think it's going to be a really good game. The teams are very different in the style of football they play, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
President Livingstone said her projection of the game is Baylor winning 27-14. I told her, go down to Harris and put money on that, because right now Vegas has Mississippi as a 1.5-point favorite.
Next, understanding Aranda's philosophical approach with the Bears. You're watching Countdown to Kickoff, Bears in New Orleans. Well, the last time Baylor coach Dave Aranda was here in New Orleans, he won a national championship as the defensive coordinator at LSU before almost immediately leaving the Tigers for Baylor. Since his arrival in Waco in January of 2020, one thing has become abundantly clear about Baylor's head football coach, and that is that his favorite part of coaching, the philosophy behind it all.
Even more than just football, like when you go and ask him football questions, he'll give you a football response. But I think more than that, he's more interested in who you are.
Dave Aranda should be nicknamed the football philosopher.
We've talked before about cars and trucks and all that.
Everything he preaches is about the how and the who, including defensive approach.
We call that like the Berenstain Bears search. You know, there's a Berenstain Bears book on old hat, new hat, where he wants a new hat, Papa Bernstein Bear, and he's trying all these hats on.
Aranda graduated from Cal Lutheran with a degree in philosophy. He wasn't a good student in high school, so he did a year in junior college.
And if you had 30 credits, then they would not look at high school. So it was like high school didn't exist, which it kind of didn't for me.
The class that caught his attention most when he started was, yes, philosophy.
I remember just listening to, the professor's name was William Bursley, and he was at Cal Lutheran for quite a long time, and he ended up becoming a mentor of mine. And just listening to it, I kind of like, that's how I thought, or I was interested. All of a sudden I'm reading books now.
Something that's carried over to his successful football career, especially with other coaches.
For me, like right now, if I listen to that coach, I know who he learned that from, what style is that from, kind of the lineage of it.
You don't see many coaches in the Power 5 level, any sport, quoting children's books. Aranda's approach is one that seems to have related well with the players. As he said today, he's anticipating having his full roster save for Blake Shapen with no opt-outs and nobody in the portal since the Big 12 championship game. Up next, we'll dive into the game itself. Keep it here. You're watching Countdown to Kickoff, Bears in New Orleans. Today, Dave Aranda made it official after hinting at it through the week. Gary Bohannon will return to the starting quarterback spot for the Sugar Bowl.
This is his first game back after missing 3 games. It comes at a perfect time. He's finally healthy, and now Blake Shapen is out with a shoulder injury.
Aranda says Bohannon progressed nicely during bowl practice and was able to transfer weight, run, do all the things he struggled with in warm-ups against Texas Tech and ahead of the Big 12 championship game. In fact, Aranda says there were things in Sugar Bowl prep that reminded him of prime Gary Bohannon.
Making throws from one hash to the far sideline. So excited for him. You know, there's a look in his eye, and I know his heart's on fire too. So excited for his opportunity.
In preparing for this game, Ole Miss coach Lane Kiffin says the biggest thing he sees in Baylor is Dave Aranda's old defenses, a team that doesn't often beat itself.
they're so well coached. You just don't see many big plays against them or screw ups, which makes it hard to beat. He basically has created a team like his defense always have been.
Kickoff tomorrow night, scheduled for 7:45 inside the Caesars Superdome here in the Big Easy. Now, to show you just how good of a game this is expected to be, according to Caesars Sportsbook, which there's one right down the street from us, Ole Miss is just a 1.5-point favorite. So we took the opportunity to make our picks. Let's bring everybody back into the fold. Matt, we took a clean sweep. We all have Baylor plus the points. Why do you have that?
Give me all the points. I want them. Baylor plus 1.5. I've got it because they're 9-4 against the spread this season. They are limiting offenses to 3.5 yards per carry. Abram Smith, Treston Ebner, they can run on that Ole Miss defense that is a little shaky. So give me Baylor.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Plus, I think both offenses are good, but I think Baylor's got the better defense, and I don't think that that's really breaking any news.
And for me, they're back at full strength. Did you see what they did to Oklahoma State
Exactly.
with their backup quarterback? Now they have QB1 back. I say, give me the points. They're winning this one.
Baylor plus 1.5, a clean sweep in the Channel 6 sports department. And that does it for Countdown to Kickoff. Bears in New Orleans. Kickoff at 7:45 tonight. We will be live pregame from the field at the Caesars Superdome. Everything you need to know leading into the 2022 Allstate Sugar Bowl. For all of us at 6 Sports, thank you for watching. Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2022. Thanks for joining us for Countdown to Kickoff. Bears in New Orleans.